And that's what we're really talking about. We're really talking about being a high performer. Yeah, how can you maintain that high performance? And part of that high performance is expanding the testing, looking at hormones, and looking at other modalities of treatment that right now are not mainstream but are present right now. They're out there right now, and you need to know where to go to find them and get yourself educated to find these locations that are offering.
And the truth is, conventional healthcare today isn't necessarily capable quickly to deploy all of the advances. For example, an MRI, which used to take an hour to run, an MRI, which used to take 2 hours to get a really high resolution scan of the whole body. Today, we can do it in 30 minutes, right? The cost has come down, the speed has increased, the tools to analyze the data have improved. So, because of this, there's no reason why a preemptive approach can't be taken. You and I often talk about our common aviation heritage. In aerospace, in aviation, we do all these things. We have a regular schedule of inspections that are very proactive. We do borescope analyses of the engines to see whether or not there's evidence of corrosion or degenerative problems that may lead to a fan blade being thrown. We do inspections of the structure, the basic structure of the aircraft. You mentioned P3s falling apart. We know these P3s are falling apart because you're looking at evidence of corrosion, evidence of rivet damage, things like that. We can do the same thing with the human body, and getting the earlier you understand where these defects are occurring, the array of tools you can use to address the problem is much greater than at the late stage when things are kind of irreversible. So you and I agree on that completely. And what we try to build in your health systems and in your efforts and in us partnering together using tools that are available at Fountain Life is give people a proactive way to get ahead of the curve. Getting ahead of the curve when it comes to diagnosing things early gives you the greatest probability of a positive outcome. And in many cases, completely curative outcome, even when you're diagnosed with something which normally would be cause of a premature death. Um, so let's talk about some other approaches. So you and I are both passionate about using tools to enhance the quality of your life as we're aging. So, in the high performance warrior community, right? The warrior elite and so on. These guys for years have recognized that as they're getting smarter and better, they're aging. It's very funny. We talk to our buddies in the SEALs, right? The special ops community. These guys come in as 18-year-old, boots. They wind up, building tremendous skill sets. They get a few deployments under their belt. And all of a sudden now they're in the special forces community and they're 30, they're 35, they're getting cumulative injuries, they're getting, joint and skeletal muscle issues and so on. They're now smarter and more capable of being elite when their bodies are beginning to decay. So what have they started to do? These are some of the first early adopters of things like hormone replacement therapy. I know you're a big advocate of that. So talk a little bit about how you want to apply that to the general public.
Yeah, exactly right. It's kind of interesting, Bob. I transitioned out of the military right before COVID. I got out on September 1st, 2017. COVID started about 2020. My point in that is that as I sat in the military healthcare system, and worked with high performing individuals, aviators, and I would perform their flight exams, physicals each year. And they would walk into the office, like the younger guys were jocks, and they were like, Doc, sign the waiver, just get me out of here, right? And the older aviators would come on in, and whether it's hypertension or some other thing, that we'd be screening and looking at waivers. We're very preventative. We're doing everything we could to stay on top of things and stay ahead of the curve. I got out and I got called by a couple of my buddies that are now commercial pilots. And they reached out to me and saying, "Hey, Frank, do you remember when I was in the Navy and you took care of me for that elbow or that back pain? Now I'm out here and my elbow, my back pain is starting to hurt, kind of a thing, and I'm doing this and that." And we actually talked about regenerative medicine, and we talked about the benefits of regenerative medicine and hormones. And so I have a couple of friends of mine who are commercial pilots out there, former Navy aviators, who are starting getting some of the symptoms associated with aging. They got their levels tested testosterone, and come to surprise, their levels were off. And by undergoing the testing and undergoing the treatment, they now are living more active lives, feeling a lot better. So it's an area of medicine in regards to hormones that people don't often think of. It often is an oversight, but sometimes the symptoms that you get with aging are related to your hormones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, women have always recognized, and healthcare systems recognize, that there's a process called menopause, which women go through, where because of declining hormonal function, they begin to accumulate the age-related problems. Men go through andropause as well, although it was often ignored. Men don't want to complain. We didn't put two and two together, but there's no doubt that declining endocrine function, the production of these important hormone molecules that maintain the quality of our skeletal muscle, maintain the quality of our joints, maintain the performance and function of our brains, that is measurable today, and you can intervene. So give me an example of, like, let's look at a typical patient you
Yeah.
you or I would know. So one of my longest friends of my life, Captain, United 787 captain, who I started flight school with when we were 13 years of age, and we learned how to fly and train together and so on. He just retired from United Airlines at age 65 after 25,000 hours flying time. One of the most amazing pilots on the planet, who by the way is like us, very focused on health. He's in amazing shape, right? He's taken the steps to preserve his performance. To be honest with you, I'd rather have him in the cockpit of a 787, than a less experienced pilot. But mandatory retirement is impacting the quality of pilots in the cockpits.
Right. That's not right. Right. Yeah. 25,000 hours. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like, who do you want up there in the cockpit?
Yeah, I often
Right.
say, when
Right.
Sully landed in the Hudson,
Right.
okay, he was, I think, within 6 months of mandatory retirement. Now, who do you want to have at the stick? Than somebody who has a wealth of experience. As long as they're physically capable, why not maintain them? So one of the things I'm dragging you into, my friend, me and some of my longstanding pilot buddies, we want to basically create a program, hopefully in conjunction with a Fountain Life, where pilots who undergo the rigorous testing, screening, and healthcare maintenance we can provide should be allowed to stay in the cockpit
Absolutely.
well beyond 65. Because
Absolutely.
let's face it, we've said for a long time, 100 is the new 60, right? There's no reason why we can't see pilots flying. And by the way, there's no in the general aviation world, guys are flying into their 80s and 90s as long as they can pass their medical. I'm talking about a super duper medical evaluation to ensure health and performance. There's no reason why they can't continue to be productive in the commercial aviation world.
Absolutely. In an area of interest that we've been targeting is, and with great success, is the paramilitary force, the police force.
Right.
Police officers and state troopers are coming to us with aging symptoms, and when we test them, not all, but many of them have hormone-related symptoms that we treat, and now miraculously they're feeling a lot better, much energetic, and now they're high performers. And I think in today's society, when you look at a 50-year-old, you look at a 60-year-old, to compete in this market, you need to be a high performer.
Yep.
And in order to be a high performer, I think you need to expand the traditional model of just doing a blood test, looking at a chemistry, looking at a CBC. I think expanding that to other factors such as hormones allows you to maintain that high performance at a
When when
greater level.
when do you think people should start? When should they start
We
approaching this with that kind of, preemptive mindset?
So Bobby, you probably know the schoolhouse A4M down there. It's where I'm trained from, and they typically drop the age at 35. So at the age of 35 is typically where hormonal related symptoms tend to start, both in men and women. So 35 and above, I think, is a fair number. Um,
And you can make a big difference when you start early.
you make a big difference, particularly your 40-year-olds. You know, your 40-year-olds, your late 40-year-olds, your early 50-year-olds who are competing in a market with younger folks. They're coming to their doctor for fatigue. They're coming to their doctor for not sleeping well. You know, some of these hormones are also associated with emotional liability, like anxiety and so forth. And expanding that realm of testing to include hormones helps folks maintain high performance. And that's what we're really talking about. We're really talking about being a high performer. You know, how can you maintain that high performance? And part of that high performance is expanding the testing, looking at hormones, and looking at other modalities of treatment that right now are not mainstream but are present right now. They're out there right now, and you need to know where to go to find them and get yourself educated to find these locations that are offering them.
So give us kind of an example. You got a 40-year-old, let's say a 40-year-old state trooper who comes to your office and he says, "Doc, um, I can feel some of the elements of aging creeping in." What do you take them through? What's your program you put them through?
So what we do is, like, when folks come on in and they're high performance individuals looking to maintain that high performance, we do a good history and physical on them. It all starts from with a really good history and physical, like we were taught back in medical school. So based upon that history and physical, we're looking for other factors, some common factors. If we find that there's no other common ailment, heart disease, diabetes, etc., anything like that, we then start going into the realm, we expand our bandwidth, and we start looking at other things such as hormonal related symptoms. And we do testing. We have two laboratories that we send folks to. They get tested at these laboratories. We get our results back very quickly. So I guess what I'm saying to you, it's not a difficult thing to do. It's very simple.
Right.
They get the blood test, and then based upon the results from that blood test, a treatment is offered. And the treatment is customized to each individual, again, with the goal of maintaining that high performance. But to your point, though, Bob, it really comes from a good history and physical, ensuring that there's no other factor, you know, that's causing their symptoms. And if not, let's expand our bandwidth and look at other things like hormones.
How big a role does nutrition play in your advice and your managing these patients?
Well, that's a really cool thing I think about regenerative medicine and anti-aging, that it goes from something so basic, like the way you think and the way you feel, to the way you eat. So if you look at like this morning, I was at Lifetime Fitness. I went to the gym. I started my day now with a regimen of working out. And after I work out, I get some, you know, really good protein shakes in me. So my point to you being, though, it really comes from a basic thing of exercise and what you eat and the way you think,
Right.
to really more advanced modalities of treatment, like you're offering here at Cellularity, with like stem cells and matrices of amniotic and placenta. So there's a broad range of treatments that I think folks aren't readily they're not aware of out there, that's available to them if they know where to look.
The tools are there.
The tools are there. They're here right now.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting because you and I both have sons who they're both incredibly fit and athletic. They work out like maniacs and so on.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we're kind of role models or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I love I love your youngest son, who
Daniel.
he's just a strapping young guy.
Yeah.
And that is so important to set the ground rules early, because when they adopt it early, it becomes part, like you said, it's behavioral, right? It becomes part of their lifestyle. So now the tools are here to fix things when they start to break down. The approaches are here for them to set the stage so they maximize the quality of their nutrition, their exercise regimens, and so on. In terms of, let's say like in your 40-year-old straight trooper who comes to you, give us an example of some of the things you do to optimize hormone levels and so on. What are the tools you use there?
So when an individual comes to us and they want to maintain their high performance, right? We test them for hormones, but another key factor, though, another really, really important thing, is making sure their cortisol levels are in balance.
That's important.
And now what's really interesting about cortisol levels is that the treatment for high cortisol levels is decreasing your stress. And so there's a lot of mindset therapy that we do. And one of the things that we're big advocates of are meditation practices. Meditation practices really help level your mindset, really help lower your cortisol levels. And we know continuous high levels of cortisol are not it's not good for your body.
Yeah.
If you constantly walk around with high levels of cortisol, it's going to lead to things such as hypertension and other things like that.
And it decreases immune function.
Your immune functions, and it also offsets your sexual hormones like estrogen and testosterone. So mindset leveling with meditation is a big thing we do, Bob. Self-care is a big thing that we promote, and self-care can come in different factors. Listen, there's a person I saw not too long ago. My recommendation to them was to get a dog.
Yeah.
To get a
Yeah.
dog and go for a walk.
That's
right?
very good advice.
Go for a dog, get a dog and go for a walk, get outside, get some fresh air. So mindset leveling, self-care has to be part of the treatment modalities that's offered for folks with hormones. It's not just about taking a hormone, it's also about mindset leveling.
Yeah.
Getting your mindset there for high performance, ensuring that your day is not just high cortisol.
And you've always had what I love is a really holistic approach to these things, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one thing or the other. It's approaching it from multiple modalities in order to, again, control the stressors in your life. Make sure that you're not breaking down your body, that you're always building it back up. It's a function of managing endocrine activity, nutrition, etc. How many supplements do you take a day?
1, 2, 3. So right now I'm at 3. I sort of take a fourth one occasionally, but I take antioxidants. I take coenzyme Q.
Yeah.
NMN. I'm on that
Yeah.
for about a year now. DHA. I take that as well, and nitric oxide.
Yeah.
Right.
So I, like you, I take a bunch. I'm big into the NAD, NMN world,
Yeah. The mitochondrial benefits of that. Yeah.
improving the quality of our mitochondria, no doubt. We'll do a little shout out to Joe Rogan. I'm a big Alpha Brain fan. I've been using that. I think that it in a nootropic approach, it actually does improve some of the preservation and restoration of neural connections, and I can feel the benefits. I take colostrum. I've gotten to be big into colostrum.
Yeah.
I find that actually has been quite helpful. Maybe I think it's helping me with maintaining my hair, which believe me, I'm very sensitive to. Which leads me to the next thing, aesthetics.
Right.
So, you and I both appreciate that there's a neuroimmune axis, right? The way we feel and the way we think, the way our brain's functioning, influences our immune system. It influences every one of the complex physiologic systems of the body. So when people say that they want to, I don't see it as narcissistic when somebody cares about how they look. I think it's self-healing. It's taking care of themselves. The collateral benefits of that are important. So people come to you for aesthetic objectives. Give me a sense of what people are asking. Hey, doc, I want to get rid of my wrinkles. I want to preserve my hair. What do they come to you for?
Well, it's really interesting because this topic of aesthetics is something that I'm a bit passionate about. There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It was written in the late 1960s. He was a plastic surgeon in Park Avenue, New York. He was an aesthetic plastic surgeon. And I bring that up because what's interesting about him in the book he talked about is that we have images that we create of ourselves. We'll go to a plastic surgeon, a dermatologist, we'll go to an injector asking, I want this image. I want to look like this. And some people will go and they'll get, this little wrinkle taken care of, or they'll get a lip filler done, and they come out with such confidence, and they can speak and go to a workplace and be high performing because they got a lip filler done, because they got this little wrinkle done. What's interesting is that another person can get the same thing done and they come back without that confidence. They don't get the same effect. And what he really talked about in that is that the image that we hold of ourselves, the image that you have of me, and then there's the actual image of me in the mirror. All these 3 different images exist, but the most important image is the image that I create in my mind of me. And so when folks come to us for aesthetics, and we go off and we offer different treatment modalities for them, we talk about how important it is to maintain a proper image of themselves by taking care of themselves properly, hydrating and sun blocking and so forth, and not just simply injecting. The injecting is kind of masking the symptom below it that led to the person having a wrinkle that needs the nasolabial fold to come on in. It may be that they need to work out more, maybe they need sun blocking. But aesthetics is a big topic, Bob, that I think is sometimes superficially only talked about with like Botox and fillers.
Right.
There's a lot more to aesthetics
Yep.
when you dive into it, and it gets a lot more interesting than simply just Botox and fillers.
But you're touching upon something that's so important, which is
Mm-hmm.
you also have to manage people's concept of what the ideal is, right? Because, people aspire to sometimes transform themselves from what they start with to something very different. That's a journey that I think in many cases it can be tempered by simply helping folks understand that, like you said, there are very simple approaches that maximize the quality of skin, hair, um, uh, uh, sort of physical characteristics that it can be managed with weight control and so on. Those things are that's achievable by anybody. And clearly people can take it to the extreme, and part of the responsibility you have and other practitioners is to manage that, right? Uh, uh, have achievable expectations and use the most conservative approaches to get there without completely transforming your anatomy. So listen, first of all, Frank, you gotta come back and share with me on a bunch of other subjects going forward. I think that this lays the groundwork for the Dr. Dos Santos, Dr. Hariri partnership here, where we're going to use this platform to help educate and inform people about what's available, align it with our mutual efforts at Cellularity, Fountain Life, at your age wellness groups, and so on and so forth. And I just want to thank you for your time, because I know that everyone's going to really get a lot out of what we've been talking about. But this is just the beginning. So a lot more topics we got to cover.
This was fun. Thank you so much, Bob.
Captain.
All right, Shipney.
All right, everybody. Again, this is Dr. Bob Hariri from Piloting Health. I just had one of my most fun interviews here at Piloting Health, talking to my buddy Dr. Frank Dos Santos about a range of topics. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep up with us and look for our next series of episodes. Hopefully, Frank will be back with me again and again. Thanks, everybody.